Acknowledge and pay respects to all Nurrakai, past and present. Acknowledge all other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here tonight, and acknowledge all other people who have joined us here. Yada Gayagu Darkanang Nira. Welcome to Darkanang country.
Hello, welcome to this episode of the Litmus Test, our special literature episode, our final episode for this season. We've got a great panel lined up for you. We're going to talk about books and poetry. Exciting stuff. But first, before we kick things off, we've got Jai Sharp. Take it away, Jai.
Hey there, why are you so sad, my friend? Listen to your heart and not your mind. Don't listen to me or the person who's bringing you down. You can find this when you look right down. And maybe we're all dreaming of a future we can design. And maybe we're all dreaming of a future that's in front of our eyes. And maybe you should listen to the birds up in the sky. You better start believing, or else I'm going to cry, my friend. Oh, hey there, my friend, he can't escape his old mind. He finds these things of his are bringing their time. Come sit with me under the tree, it's nice and breeze. That's, yeah, everything you meant to be. And maybe we're all dreaming of a future we can design. And maybe we're all dreaming of a future that's in front of our eyes. And maybe you should listen to the birds up in the sky. You better stop believing, or else I'm going to cry, my friend. Oh, And look into your heart, my dear, and everything will clear. And show me what you're gonna mean, and watch it as you tear. Don't worry about the mind, my friend, or the people watching you. They'll soon become a friend of yours and watch you as you grow. And maybe we're all dreaming of a future we can design. And maybe we're all dreaming of a future that's in front of our eyes. And maybe you should listen to the birds up in the sky. You better start believing, or else I'm going to cry, my friend. Oh, oh, oh.
Thank you. Jai will be back to join us at the end of the show to do another song for us. But let's meet our panel. To my left here, I have Sally Perricone, a comedy writer who, among other things, has created a musical, MILF the Musical, and is currently writing a book called Dreadful. I want to know more about that. To my right here, we have Susie Palmer, an author and poet who, among other things, has published 2 volumes of poetry, and we'll get a little bit more into what else you do. Brian Cook, who is a literary agent, owner of the Authors Agent, a boutique agency based in Terrigal. And to the end here we have Yvonne Sorensen, who is Vice President of the Wyong Writers Group. Yes? Welcome, Yvonne. So,
Sorry.
that's okay. I'm coming back to you now. We all should have brought a little random item with us.
Yes.
What have you got to show us?
I have a little memento from my show MILF, the musical that I produced and put on, and it combines both my love of writing and my love of music, and I incorporated both of them, and also putting it in a bottle which is my favourite drop, red wine.
I noticed there's nothing in it though. That's all
No,
been
well
drunk.
that's right. Well, I did say it was my favourite drop. And it just has everybody in the cast, and every time I look at it, it just reminds me that I did it. You know, it can be done, and I staged the musical, and it was a sellout, and I loved it.
So you wrote the book, music and lyrics?
That's right.
And directed?
Yeah, no, I didn't direct. Actually, Daryl Kirkness
Right.
from the Gosford Musical Society
Right.
directed the.
But you produced effectively, did
Yes,
you?
I did. I produced it.
Did you perform?
No, I didn't perform. It was just too many hats. I thought, writing the music and the words and making sure that everything was sort of going on track. A little bit too hard to perform as well. But I would have loved to have, but it was just too much.
Right. So that was
yeah.
your first foray into musical theatre?
It was. Oh no. Well, I'd been there. I've done a lot of musical theatre.
In terms of writing your own show?
In writing my own show, 100%.
Yeah.
So it was just such a great experience.
Would
So
you do it again though?
100%. Oh my goodness. I would like MILF 2.
Yeah, see the sequel, MILF 2. The Twilight Years. Susie Palmer, what have you got to show us?
I brought along a beautiful item I got from Bryce Courtney when I met him in 2004 at the Children's Literature Festival at Toowoomba campus. He spoke there as one of the speakers, and I was lucky to speak with him afterwards, and he said, get on my website, contact me, and I'll see what I can do with you for your children's stories. And so when I sent him my children's stories, he sent back this to Susie, the writer. We've loved Bryce Courtney, so knowing how much and how dear he is to our souls and hearts and to Australian literature, had to bring that in, so that's very inspiring to me. And he encouraged me to market myself, start marketing, heads down, bums up, and get to work. And also he did one of my children's stories, Meeting Wild Horses. which is now a chapter book. He set this mounted on a beautiful wall hanging, a beautiful printer that was one of his artists did, and with one of my stories, which is now much bigger. So that was a bonus and so beautiful. So
I see you've got it laminated and...
Yeah, well that's just on my wall, that was there, but the perfect one was at home on the wall. So I should have bought that, shouldn't I?
No, that's fine.
I didn't think. But what I also bought today was a little poem which I wrote last night for the Litmus test, because wherever I go and perform or do things, I always tend to write a poem for the occasion. So this is for you guys.
Oh, a little poetry performance.
Come on, drummer. I've got a drummer here, but not today. Okay, so the Litmus test. The Litmus test, or performers and guests, celebrate the Central Coast creative community. A visionary podcast, such type unsurpassed, utterly deserves longevity. Unearths and promotes artists with talents that astounds us, magnificent and with humility. Offers the Central Coast creatives a live broadcast to create in. To let the Litmus test invigorates the art community. So the Litmus test with the logo on top.
Cool.
Very cool.
So that's for you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll put that on the website. We'll put that on the and everything else.
Please do.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Brian, can you top that?
No, I certainly can't top that. When asked to bring something along to talk about today, I really have no idea what to bring along to talk about, because there are so many different things on my desk that mean so much to me as a result of the work that I do. But in conversation earlier, you said, perhaps including my dictionary over there, which is most important. I'm such a terrible speller. I've got to have my dictionary with me. That's my Bible, one of many. But you said, perhaps tell a story, and perhaps how I came to be involved in publishing. Well, as a literary agent, I entered publishing, I confess, in 1969, when I needed a job with a car. So I come to publishing through purely commercial needs, and that's actually what drives me. I was saying to Yvonne, when sitting with a group of creative people, creative writers, I think I'm creative in my own way, but actually I have a commercial focus. So I'm here about nuts and bolts. I'm here about my clients and driving my clients and building their intellectual property profiles and managing their profiles. Yes, it's that boring.
Well, look, all writers want to make money. That's why we do it. Like many of us do it anyway.
Yes.
So, but as long as there's a car in it.
Well, these days cars are very hard to come by with jobs. So, and particularly since I work for myself, my boss is so mean. He won't supply me with a car.
Oh, you don't get a corporate car where you are now?
Oh, I've got a bus pass.
Oh.
It's a tough life.
Yvonne, have you got a bus pass?
No, I normally drive, but today, train's not running. I wished I had.
You want my bus pass? You want to borrow that?
What little relic have you got to tell us about?
Oh, this is just a little notebook. I note everything down, and occasionally illustrations. But I've been doing this since I was 10. One teacher, an art teacher, told me, write down your thoughts as well as sketch daily. And the only way to do it was in those moments when you're travelling and when you're waiting in surgeries. And you
do you do that a lot?
Rather than read the awful magazines, I'm sorry, but I'd rather scribble away in this. Thoughts, middle of the night, you wake up, that thing that was worrying you while you were typing your story, it suddenly comes to you in the middle of the night. And if you don't write it down right there and then, it's lost. So this goes with me everywhere.
When the subconscious is working away and you're not forcing it.
Yes. That's right.
And this is where visual art sort of coincides with what today's show is about, because part of what we're talking about is fiction, non-fiction, children's work, which includes artwork, and illustration, which is your main background, I gather, Yvonne. Yes, and illustration. But let me go back to starting our story. So, coming back here, how did you begin as a writer, and what kind of writer are you? You've got a novel, you've done a stage show, but there's many other things you do, I know.
I don't want to be pigeonholed, and that's one of the things, like how do you, that's another challenge in branding myself as well, because I'm not just a musical writer. I don't just write copy. I don't just write, songs. I write a whole gamut because there's so many things to write about. So I'm trying to write a novel at the moment. Well, I'm in the middle of writing the novel.
Do you think you'll finish it?
Oh, well, look, I have finished it. I should say I'm more in the middle of editing
Revising,
it.
okay,
Yeah.
yep.
So that's my next thing. But yeah, comedy is everywhere and it's funny, and some of the stuff that you write about, they say, you couldn't script some of the stuff that happens in real life, and especially being a mum of three, stuff just writes itself. So, there's more drama and sass down at the primary school gate than you'll find anywhere on the street or in any gossip magazine. It's everywhere, and there's characters everywhere.
So this is your book,
hard.
Dreadful. Is this sort of what it's about? Family, motherhood, children?
No,
that sort of thing?
God, no. no. All my other things are about that. So I've written a sitcom, a 13-episode sitcom called Don't Call Us, and I've written the musical MILF, and I've written a couple of other, The Divorce Party, and I'm in the middle of writing a TV show, reality television show at the moment.
Oh, so this is all TV, film related?
Performance related. So my book is about, it's sort of like a Sixth Sense sort of thriller type of,
okay.
and I just wanted to do something outside of the comedy world. I thought, can I do this? Is this going to be really hard to try and pull back the comedy? I mean, there is comedy in drama as well, so I thought I'm going to try and marry the two in a sort of different, sort of quirky way.
So this is my experience as well, but let me ask you, as someone who's written for performance, and now you're writing narrative fiction, how do you find the difference? The craft, how does it change for you?
Because you're not writing for you are writing for characters, and the characters are in your mind as opposed to the characters that you think you can see on the screen. So it's I don't know, it's harder just putting it into, I don't know how to explain it. It's writing and editing a novel is a lot different to writing a script. For like character says dialogue, then action is action, and then the director, of course, looks at that and makes his own notes.
I suppose fundamentally a novel like this is you are the ultimate creator.
You're the director,
of that final work.
you're the actors, you're everybody. So
whereas a script, it's going into other hands, it's going to be produced, it's going to
right.
turn into something else, it's meant to be turned into something else.
That's right, and everybody has a process, and it's nice to, the difference with writing something for film and television and a play is that everybody gets on board. It's a, you can share your craft and you can brainstorm ideas, whereas I find when you're writing a novel, it's just you. And you go, gosh, I hope
you've got no one else to blame.
So people like this. And so first attempt at, at this crazy drama sort of like, Sixth Sense type of thing, people are going to think I'm crazy, like stick to comedy, Sally. Who knows?
Just do the comic version.
Well,
Susie, as a poet, I mean, is it even more challenging for you? Well, let me go back. How did you start as a writer, and how did you get into what you do?
I know, it's just life, it opened up, and as you said, it just comes to you and it writes itself. So I wanted to express, I was writing about, I went to children's stories. I went actually to a local school to talk about literature because I've been writing my life story for quite a long time, and because life keeps being lived, it's a very long story, so I've sort of given up for a little while because I would like to just compile a little bit more. But I went to a local school and spoke about literature, and before I went for the day, I thought, because I'm speaking to kids, I think they're year 4, year 5, no, they're year 6, those ones, and I thought, well, I'll write a children's story for them. And that's when Come Fly With Me, the first story started, and that was how it began, and they loved it. They would really, really enjoy it and appreciate it. So then become the next one. Then I started to go to the local schools, sharing them, and I'd do the first story, then we'd do a lovely meditation, a guided meditation, and go around the world and do wonderful things in our minds, as we can do. And then I wrote more and more stories and went to TAFE, to oldest kids, and then just kept sharing my writings that way. So it was the autobiography, because I needed to share my life story, which I was directed to share by a wise man, said, you got to write or you must write. A story about your life, true truth. A story in your most honest way. A story describing this is how I won this battle, and we all have battles. So I'm sharing mine. And I said, do you have a right?
For those who don't know, can you just briefly explain what your battle is focused on?
Okay, the physical challenge of don't like labels, but MS. And so walking and free movement is actually the thing that's the biggest challenge for me. So my mind flies and my body goes, oh yeah, I actually can't do that right now, but I'm happy. I'm happy, and it's made me sit down and really focus on the moment. I'm here. I'm more present now than I've ever been. And so that's where the quietness comes. So I'm able to really center myself and just share what needs to come.
So did poetry seem the better form for that for you?
I think so. It's so much, you can say so much more in a few moments, and it's really is making each word work for you in the most expressive way to share the message of freedom and joy, our interrelatedness and connection, and that we're all in it together. And
you've also taken it beyond just books. You're performing, you're doing readings with musical backing and all of that. Yes.
As I said, beautiful Mike, there's a drummer here. He comes, supports me on one wing, and another gentleman he's no longer on the planet. He was a guitarist, and he put beautiful little pieces to each poem. So it was like, I get there, I have the microphone in front of me, and beautiful Mike on drum and guitarist, and it would be not singing, but it was really good because every word was spoken clearly, and I really felt that everyone could hear every word, because as we know with beautiful songs, and we love songs, we often can only hear the verse, and it's when it's repeated over and over, so the voice, the meaning gets lost somehow, and we all interpret it our own way, which is perfect again, and every bit of art is a reflection of our own interpretation, and so we all hear differently, but it was just, and the words, the first line just pops into my mind, where from, we love to know, we don't, inspiration, and then that's what it writes itself, then the rhyme writes itself, and so I see it just continually sharing poetry, and it's the best, most cathartic way to express, be in the moment, and just release something that just needs to be shared. It's great.
I'm going to, again, can you follow that, Brian?
That's so easy.
Yes. But actually, Brian, I'll ask you more specifically, you explained how you sort of got into publishing, but why did you pursue that path instead of maybe being a creative writer yourself?
I have written and I have been published, but I came to realisation that it was not for me, that there are many other people with much more to offer, and I felt I wasn't driven. Writers, just saying to them, writers are cursed. You know, they're driven, they can't. There's nothing else you can do. You have to write. Once you're a writer, you have to write. I'm not driven like that, and I could acknowledge that and move away from it. I just want to say that was really lovely, because actually what you're talking about is true storytelling. When you're sharing, but the writing is a part. It's like looking at a picture book where text and an illustration come together, and there's a narrative in an illustration that's supporting the text, and vice versa, if it's working particularly well. And if you've got music and song and lyric, you know, the whole thing is the expression, and that's really beautiful. So as a writer, we get hung up on writing looks like a particular thing, but it needn't necessarily. And I know that it's performance poetry as well. And there is an art and a craft to performance poetry, obviously, but that's all part of the storytelling. And as I'm expressing myself now with movement and what have you, that's what all writers do in one way or another. No, I'm not. So thanks. I'm not a writer. I love being around writers. They drive you insane, but I love being around writers. I love watching writers. I love the process. In my years in publishing, and I was last time I had a real job, I was a publisher, children's publisher at a major publisher, and that process. And when people say to me, "What's the thing from your publishing career that you most value?" And for me, it was finding people, and finding people who are you always employ better than yourself, and employing people who have gone on to be, sort of very key players in the publishing industry today out there. For me, that's a great reward. And when I see writers and illustrators, and I was in a position to have a proactive role in supporting them and helping develop them, etc., to see them take off is such a reward. That's what I get out of it. I'm not the writer, but I love observing and I love seeing writers progress, even though, I used to have a lot of hair. But anyway, right. What am I saying?
It's age, not stress. Don't worry.
It's classy, mate.
I want to talk more about publishing a little later on, but Yvonne, for yourself and for the writers that you represent in the writers group, I mean, as you say, some of these guys are published.
Yes.
Some probably self-published, some possibly through publishers.
Yes.
And many of them are budding writers. It's their first time they're writing short stories, poetry, their first novel. Why do you think they do this? What are the people that you know, are they driven to write?
Oh, they're driven to write, but they're also, they're realistic, most of them these days, that they need to have contact with other writers, because you, as Sally said, you're alone there and you don't know what to do. If you're with other writers, you bounce ideas off one another and you feel the camaraderie of it.
Yeah.
It's very good. Join a group if you're worried about writing and about your expertise in writing. Join a group. You soon, with the critiquing, you soon polish that up, which I found.
Yeah.
If I read my old stuff now, I think, how embarrassing. Yes.
And even if you can't, if there's no group near you or for whatever reason, there are, as you would know, there are script editors, there's people that can help you evaluate your work in a more formal sense. But certainly a writers group is a cheaper way of doing that.
Yes.
And getting, it's, as you said, it's a very solitary profession.
It is,
You know.
it is, and it is a curse. I sometimes I feel like, oh gosh, but I get that, guilty feeling in my stomach if I haven't written something for the day. Is that just crazy?
Yeah, it's like,
But
it's a good drug.
it is. It's a good drug. It's a good drug. So you just, you sit down and you just bang away.
And the more you write, the better you get. And yes,
Yes.
I usually write
Yes.
something every day. It's not fiction. It's not necessarily, it might be work related. I also worked as a journalist way back, a computer journalist. So I sort of trained myself through that to just write and know how to write quickly and simply and effectively. And that training's helped me well in everything else I do. But I'm always writing something, even if it's just an email. I'm very careful about how I write emails.
One of the things about writing a musical was, and working on your craft too, is having people actually say your words back. So, like with books, people express it and they read it and they take what you can ask 10 people in a room what they got out of the book and you'll find 10 different answers. Oh, is that what you meant to say? It's like, oh yeah, that's what I was saying. What did you? Yeah, I was saying that. But with the musical, it was like, you get to see people say your words and you go, wow, they're actually saying it and it's making sense. Thank God. And they get laughing at the right spot.
And you're beholden to the actor and the directors performing this, and that's not quite what I imagined, but that's pretty good otherwise.
Yeah.
And if you see a show
And if
does several productions with maybe a different cast, it changes the whole dynamic
absolutely,
of it.
and you're meant to do it every time. Every time it's changed.
Every
it's
night
like, yeah,
is
that was what I
different.
decided.
Because also as a performer, every night can be different, even though it's the same words.
Absolutely. Yes.
And as a filmmaker, it's like, and someone who's directed my own scripts, sometimes I can be very particular about saying the words just the way they're written. Sometimes I say, fine, just go for it. That's working emotionally. I don't care if you ad-lib this moment. So how precious are you, let me go to you because you've done performance, how precious are you therefore about performers doing the words you've written?
Oh God, I'll go for the laugh every time. Like if I'm not precious at all. I like it to stay to the story and stay sort of true to the story, because then other parts of it won't make sense if they don't. But I'm all about freedom. Like as an actor, you need your freedom, and if that's how you want to say it, really don't split hairs. If it works for them and they're comfortable saying it like that, they don't have to read it, word perfect off the page. I think
now that
they
you're
need
writing
to feel it.
Now that you're writing the book, and once you finish this, that's it.
Yeah. I know. I haven't got anybody to interpret for me. I'll just have to go, yeah, no. So again, whatever anybody feels or whatever emotion it evokes, I'll have to say, yeah, that's exactly how I meant you to feel.
How do you feel? Did you get much feedback on your poetry? Did people respond to and give you feedback you weren't maybe expecting sometimes?
Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. And when you say about writing the words correctly, it's interesting because no one's sitting there with the lines themselves. They're not following through. They're just really giving you a lot of feedback through their joy in their faces, and they're following you and interested. And I was really pleased about their response. But if you did get a word or line wrong, it was, you're able to swap them over, no one knew. It was perfect.
When you're performing yourself, yes,
Yeah,
certainly.
that was great. It's just like I had no rules, and it was just all in the feeling. It was the feeling. So the words mean so much, but the feeling is why you're doing it, it's the way you're doing it that means the most, and that it's the message is the feeling. So.
And this is, again, referring back to filmmaking, writing is not just about the words people say.
No.
You know, the story is far more than just the dialogue.
Oh,
It's,
gosh,
and it's not just words on a page. It's, and as we had in our last episode, Indigenous culture, the story is not necessarily narrative at all, right? It's art and it's performance and it's dance and it's everything else.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to be the words that they can tell that story, and it's, at the heart of it is the emotions that you're trying to get across.
Yes.
As a
Absolutely.
writers group,
Yes.
what tends to be your focus when you're trying to help writers develop their work?
Oh, that they are not self-conscious, that not we critique their work, but we also encourage them, especially the young ones. They need encouragement, or even older ones, new starting. Some are doing it as a hobby, others are, the younger ones, have hope, which is nice to see.
So do you have among your people, you know, some more experienced writers that come read these and offer that mentorship kind of advice?
Yes. The older ones often, especially at the critiquing groups that we have apart from our monthly meeting, and they're good because you can get right down to it. You haven't got a large group there, you've just got 4 or 5, and that really helps them. I'm going to take a break. I want to have a look at the package that we prepared for this show. When I come back, I want to talk about publishing and the industry of publishing. Let's have a look at that package now.
Hi, Teen A-Wake, out and about for the literature episode of the Litmus Test. It's our final episode, so I hope you enjoy our upcoming interviews with wonderful local authors. Well, first of all, self-publishing. Is it a good thing for authors and the industry?
It's absolutely a good thing for authors. The publishing industry itself, I don't know if it's a good thing for the traditional model of that. I think that as self-publishing becomes more and more widespread, and because it is such a good thing for authors, even people who've been traditionally published for ages are jumping onto self-publishing now.
Well, for me, I've been doing graphic design typesetting for so many years that I guess the last thing I wanted to do was self-publish my own book and have to do that all over again. So for me, it was a much better route to go looking for publishers.
Traditional publishing is either going to have to change to survive, or really what's going to happen is authors will become the publishing industry.
I think there's some styles of writing, some stories out there that the publishers just won't touch. Right. And there's nothing you can do about that. And it doesn't mean that your stuff isn't well written or that people out there will read it. It just means that those publishers have made decisions of what they will and won't publish. So for those people, self-publishing can really work for them. For other people, I think it's easier to have that background of a big publisher or a publisher, be it small, medium or large. They're in the background helping you with the marketing, helping you with the editing and that sort of thing.
In relation to ebooks and things like that, I think that there'll always be printed books around. I think it's Stephen Fry that said that print books are no more threatened by ebooks than stairs are threatened by escalators.
I don't think the printed word is going away anywhere soon. I think we're going back to probably what we were before the big franchise book chains took over, where there were only small bookshops. That's the only place you could go to, and we got used to this time when there was bookshops everywhere and books everywhere, and everywhere you go you could buy a book. E-books have changed all that.
Yeah, but I think bookstores need to be about connecting to books in a way. I mean, that's what you go to a bookstore for, is for being around books and connecting to them in a different way than you can just on an online store.
How does the author-publisher deal with piracy and digital distribution?
That's probably the toughest question. Everyone's got their own different ways. I think fighting it is probably the worst way to go. When you try and put restrictions on things, digital rights management to prevent people copying, it only challenges people to break the code and get it anyway. So in the end, that doesn't work.
We pretend it doesn't happen. You just don't want to look. You don't want to know. I've had authors, friends of mine, who they're not big name authors, and they'll put out a new book and they'll see that it's been pirated the day after. It's already being shared around and stuff. So it's sort of a don't look, or it's a bit too depressing. But at the same time, there are some big name authors like Hugh Howey, who is sort of one of the big self-publishing superstars, where on his website he's got a little donation box for people who have pirated his stories. If they enjoyed them and they go to his website to try and find out more about him, they can donate. And he apparently gets a lot of people doing that.
I've seen a lot of studies that show for a lot of authors it actually helps readership. If you do get your stuff pirated, sure, you can spend a lot of time sending out takedown notices and fighting against it, or you can hope that those people are going to be a couple of extra readers, that your next book they will buy, because they've enjoyed what you've read, that they'll tell their friends and their friend won't want to pirate and will buy it. So yeah, I don't think you lose readers. I don't think those people who pirate would have bought the book in the first place.
What would you recommend for people who are trying to get into the industry?
That there are so many opportunities these days for authors. Self-publishing really has opened up the whole marketplace, and just absolutely go for it. And you have to remember that it's not, easy money. I think there are a lot of people trying to jump into the industry thinking that it is easy money. It's still work. You have to be professional. You are your own entire publishing industry. If you want to go that way, you've got to create your own network of cover designers, editors, proofreaders, the whole thing all the way through. But if you can do it professionally, I think there are absolutely fantastic opportunities these days.
And we're back. And you would have met in that out and about package Selena Fennick, who actually provided some of the artwork that you'll see back here. She's an illustrator and she's done some of the books here. And she was in our package that you just saw then. Let me come to you, Brian. I'm going to get serious now.
Okay, that's my end of town.
Okay. If you're a serious writer, you want to make a living doing this. You want this to be your career. How do you earn a living being a writer these days?
I have no answer.
You're the representative. You represent writers, so you're trying to help them sell their work, and hopefully make a living doing that work.
It's really interesting in that if there is an expectation from writers who are cursed that they're going to earn a living out of book publishing in this country. Very rare. It can happen, but very rarely does it happen.
Unless you're Bryce Courtney.
And that doesn't happen overnight. Bryce Courtney's background, and I'm so glad you've both mentioned him because he's a great example. Came out of advertising. His background was advertising. His background was marketing. He knew exactly what he was doing with regard to positioning himself, marketing himself, and was the controller of that when he was publishing in Penguin. He determined how he was the publicity.
So even though he had a publisher who technically in charge of that, he was driving that, wasn't he?
He was absolutely driving it, for he knew he had a vision and he knew how to position himself. He was a good storyteller. There are those people who, bless him, he's left us, and I'm sorry. There are people who criticise his writing. So what? He was a great storyteller, had great characters and great passion, and those characters and stories leapt off the page. But it took him, I think it was probably Power of One that was really his turning point, in the sense that it was a well-received book, but it was made into a movie, and suddenly his profile became supreme. So his profile lifted, and for a writer it's all about profile. And where does your profile come from? It comes from years of work. There's no such thing. Oh, there is, I suppose. There's no such thing as an overnight success.
Yeah, there is. It just takes 10 years to get there.
It took 10 years. Yeah, that's right. And from my point of view, as an agent, when I'm looking at a new writer, That's the decision I make as well. What is there in this new writer that I see, that I connect with? It's all about me. That I connect with, that I think I can liaise with this writer and help and work with them, because it's going to take 10 years before that writer gets a profile that's going to result in some money for me.
Yes, and you joke it's all about you, but it does need to be, because this is your job. It does need to be all about you, because you're devoting that much time to the writer to help support them. You've got to be passionate about them and their work.
That's exactly right.
Otherwise, they should find someone else.
Yeah. Yes. And very often when people come to me, and I see a lot of manuscripts every day, and my response can only be properly to them, I don't think I'm right for this, or this is not ready for a number of reasons. This is my opinion. It's only my opinion. But if I don't connect with it immediately, then I'm of no use to them, in the sense of being able to. And frustratingly, sometimes you see something, you think, I don't know what it is about this one. I don't know what it is, but I love it. Yeah. Something is happening on the page that is just speaking to me. I have to pay attention to that. Let's start a dialogue, and it can take some time before you can actually get something up to put in front of a publisher. Again, that's my kind of decision to make.
Do you mainly deal with writers then towards getting a major publisher, the traditional route? Or are you now dealing with writers who want to go it alone and just want some representation, some service, some script editing services, which you also provide, I gather?
Oh, I used to do that, and thank you for raising that. I ran a business called the Manuscript Appraisal Agency, which was established to give people some publishing resources and responses to their work, and it was through that agency that I took to becoming a literary agent, because I could see that if I could see work coming along, it would be foolish of me not to sort of try and take it further, because I like, that's sort of what drives me. But I recently sold that business. It's still in operation, the Manuscript Appraisal Agency. There's an ad. Run by a very smart young woman by the name of Kit Carstairs, who operates out of the Blue Mountains, and she has great resources there on a fee-for service, of course, for helping people not only develop their work and develop their skills and their manuscripts, but also to publish them. And people who want to self-publish, and I say to, I tend not to get involved with self-publishing, because frankly there's nothing in it for me.
Yes.
But if people are going to do that, I encourage them to ensure that they invest in themselves, in good editorial support and good design, and to get the product up. And of course, once they've got an item that they can sell, and generally it might be online, or of course you can go to hard copy and through a number of people who supply services, etc. The big challenge, of course, is to market yourself and get your profile. As tough as it is in writing a book, your story.
We're nodding over this side.
Yes. As tough as it is in writing a book, it's kind of the easy part. When it comes to what do you do once you've got the book, what do you do with it? How do you get noticed?
That's the hardest part.
That's the hardest part. The promise of digital publishing, the promise that comes from being out there in the ether. If you build it, they will come. That's not true.
Well, this goes back to, in fact, this makes me recall an interview I did with my son, Shim, who's a musician. And towards the end of the interview, I asked him, what's the advice you would give musicians? And this applies to filmmakers and authors just as much. He said, as much time as you devote to the making of your art, spend as much time in the business of your art, 50-50. So you've got to market it, you've got to develop that profile, all of that, as much as the creative side of things. And today for authors and writers especially those who want to self-publish, you've got to spend that much time, and some of them just aren't good at that, aren't up to that.
And Phil, there is a whole industry built around promoting the concept of publishing by individuals, and certainly, and that was one of the big changes I saw at London Book Fair this year, with a number of resources that are available for writers. But it's still a promise. They still have to know how to market themselves. No one's going to do it for you. And
although there are now companies that offer that service for a fee.
For a fee. Yeah. It's all for a fee. That's why I use the expression. If you're going to, if you want to invest in yourself, if you're prepared to invest in yourself, there are a number of services and service providers out there, many of whom are very good. but it's going to cost you a lot of money. And will the promise of sales be out there?
Yeah, it's the difference between just writing a book and being a publisher, effectively being your own publisher.
Yes.
And everything that entails, and that can be expensive.
Yes, indeed.
Let me ask you that, a lot of it, we're talking books for the moment, and you've got a pile here in your lap of actual paper, Ted Tree books.
Physical books.
Yeah.
And these are some of the bodies you represent, and there's all different styles here, yes?
Well, I selected these books because they represent the sort of mix of people who I represent. We have adult fiction and children's writer and illustrator in picture books.
And children's books are huge, it's a big market.
Children's books are doing very, very well.
Hallelujah.
Absolutely. Great competition. That's the subject of a whole different discussion. But, adult non-fiction and published University of Queensland Press. And I represent the illustrator Jules Faber, the fabulous Jules Faber, who illustrates these books. Weirdos 1 through to 5 now published at Scholastic by Ando, of course.
Right.
So I mean, from my point of view as a literary agent, having this excellent illustrator Jules Faber connected with someone like Ando, who is marketing himself and marketing his books, and particularly into children and into the entire country. I don't think there are many Australians who don't know who Ando is. So, you know, that's a really wonderful relationship to have. And very often publishing is about, well, clearly is about relationships.
So, publishing is moving away from this form of book. Bookstores are closing down, a lot of them, unfortunately. People are buying ebooks. A lot of the books are coming from Amazon, Kindle, all of that sort of thing. And that's becoming a huge market, and it's the main market, I presume, for self-published authors. Do you disagree, or how do you feel about that?
Oh no, because this is the other thing I've brought with me. Of course, this is the other format. You know, here is the tablet, and this is how we're doing it now. A combination of soft copy and hard copy, and there are figures. Look, I think the revolution. It's in progress, but it's calming down and it's levelling off, all those platitudes. Recent reports are that digital sales are going off. Digital readers, W.H. Smith, I believe it's W.H. Smith in the UK, have recently taken their digi-readers off the shelves because it's levelling off. People are going back to a mixture of hard copy and soft copy, which is really interesting, and that, of course, digibooks are price driven. You know, the big thing that's happened with digital publishing is that, and this is my bandwagon, the big thing that has happened in digital publishing is that digital publishing has driven down the perceived value of a book. Digital books sell brilliantly at $1. Brilliantly at $1. You know, the reports, Christmas Day, 100th HarperCollins UK sells 100,000 units because people got 100,000 units at under $1, virtually under
Everyone's
$1.
looking for a bargain.
They got people are out there. They want to load up their reader with things that are going to cost them very little. You put a new release, a new piece of fiction on any platform digitally at any reasonable price, and I'm talking about a reasonable price that compares with the published price of, say, you know, $8, $9, for example. The sales are, in this country, are mightily unimpressive. They're growing, but they're mightily unimpressive. You put it out there for $1, and suddenly you've got what looks like a print run on your hands, because in a very short space of time, you'll sell 3,000 to 4,000 copies at no money.
And I've found this with my book, which I did self-publish. You know, when I drop the price and do a special week or whatever,
that's right,
at the lower price, everyone snaps it up.
Lovely.
Yeah, but you don't get as much, obviously.
No, you don't get as much, and you think, oh, that's an investment I'm making in my profile. That at least people are reading my book, somebody's going to remember my name, they'll see what I've done, and that'll spin off in some other way. Maybe in a future book, you've started to build your profile. You've got that on your website, and that's all good. We're all getting excited about it. It's a marketing ploy. But will it pay off? We don't know. And unlike the music industry, who can, you can give your music away if you like, because you're going to have a concert and people are going to go along.
Well, that's in music industry, yes, exactly. Digital's the same thing there, but they do have that alternative, provided they're not signed to a major record label.
Well, that's right. There is another product. When you've written a book, the only book you've got to sell, the only product you've got to sell, the only place you're going to get a reward, a return financially, is that book when you sell it.
And you can do
sell
readings and things, but that's really only for major authors.
Well, that's where I used to sell my poetry books when we do our performances, yeah.
And you do special performances, because it's poetry, it's almost song lyrics.
Yes.
You can do that, I guess.
Yeah, so that works.
And do you find financially that works better for you than the books themselves?
Yes, well actually on your site you're not going to sell them as well as when you're out there presenting the poetry. People want to go home with the book or books or the CDs. So that's so
and you make CDs of the...
Yeah, we recorded, before Greg left the world, we actually professionally recorded our favourite works and did 2 CDs. So
with musical backing and the whole deal?
Yeah, with the guitarist and drummer.
Very Patti Smith of you.
It was beautiful, it was very lovely, yes. Global Bright Blessings and Inner Bright Blessings. So divided the two, the meanings in both my poems, the messages usually either freedom, liberation internally and externally around the world. So we sort of divided the 2 books, sets of poetry types.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yvonne, just again, talking about the writers that you represent, how many of them want to try and make a living at this, and how many of them it's just a hobby? They don't really care about it?
About half are doing memoirs, of which I'm one, and we want our descendants to sort of be interested and not fall asleep reading our lives. And others, it's a hobby. I doubt that there's anyone in our group who have visions of except the young ones, the children. We've got a couple
of making this their career.
Yes,
of being a writer.
The rest of them, it's more or less a hobby.
Well, let's talk about this, because you actually are a working writer. You're earning a living as a writer in various forms.
Yes.
And we talked about a couple of those. How do you find juggling all of these different forms and versions of the craft?
Writing about toilet paper and shampoo for a living.
As you said, Bryce Courtney came from advertising. That's where the money is.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but writing for a big organisation like Southern Cross Stereo, at least it keeps my hand in, and I know what's trending, what isn't trending, what people are liking to read, and what people listen to, and demographics, of course, because I write for ones like 2GO and then I write for CFM, so they're completely different demographics. So, and then we also write for the country as well. Different demographics, different people, different strokes for different folks, and I suppose that as a writer you have to find out what it is that you love to write, and making sure that the medium or the audience that you want to that you're going to write for is going to listen to it. So make sure that your content is for your reader, or make sure that what you're writing about, the target audience is going to listen.
So do you find that day job fulfills your creative yearnings? Or is that why you've done the show and why you're writing the novel?
Look at that's a bit prickly. I really I love to write, and like I said, if I'm not writing at work, I'm writing at home, so I may as well get paid for it, as opposed to just writing at home. But there's nothing like writing your own story and your own messages, and writing for fun, and really the things that I write about are for, like MILF and stuff for television and ads. It's just for entertainment. I want people to, come and watch a show, have a laugh for 90 minutes, go home, or go and have a nice dinner and have a laugh about it. That's what I want to do. I want to entertain and, not be too heavy about it, but then there's genres where, other writers like to really delve into, the truth and get into the heavier part of it. Just know your audience, I think. know your audience and make sure you're connecting with the audience that you want to write.
And that's why, as a comic writer, you're now writing a thriller.
Well, yeah, you have to give it a go. I just have to. I owe it to myself to give it a go. I've always wanted to try and see if I can cross over a little bit. And
Right.
Phil, if I may,
yes.
sorry, if I may,
Yes.
I think something you said before, I think it's really, really important that writers understand. But from my experience of observing writers in operation, you have to write all the time. As a journalist,
yes.
I mean, that's kind of the treasure trove for me when I'm looking for clients, people who have got a journalistic background, because they're writing. They write the whole time, they write various things. Keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. And it's just part of developing your skill and your language and skill and how you come to the paper, whether you're keen or whether you write longhand, how you come to the paper, how you find the threads of the things that you want to say, how you find the threads of your characters so that they can reveal themselves through dialogue, deed and action, so that you as the narrator get out of the way and you are the writer and not seen on the page.
That's the craft.
And there'll be a type of vernacular that you use too, that people will connect with you. They'll say, oh, that's got to be, that's got
And that
so
develops
and
your
so all
style.
over it.
That
Yeah,
develops
that's
your
your
style.
style.
So whatever writing you can do.
Yeah.
And I think
Yes.
it's really good to, and if you can make some money along the way doing it and pay the bills, excellent. But you know, if you have to write about one thing and a different thing and a different thing and a different thing,
That's okay.
and get inside those spaces and reflect the brief, as a writer, find the words that take the reader on the voyage that's required.
And if you can, as I have, and I feel you have, we're writing about writing. We're writing about craft. I've written about filmmaking, for example, and the different aspects of that, which is something else I do and love. So at least I'm writing about what I do.
That's
it's
it.
about the art in some way. It's not. I'm not necessarily writing advertising copy, which is like the dark side for me.
And
And who better to write it than somebody who does?
well, that's right.
You know?
And it's great to discuss it, to come in from the cold and discuss it with people. And it's good to have a support group and people you trust, people you can entrust yourself to and your work to. But you just have to do it. You know,
That's the hardest job, is to sit at a table and write.
just write.
Yeah.
Stop talking about it.
Yeah.
And as that brand of manufacturer Zip said, just do it.
That's right. You get a stack of works and then you go, okay, gosh, I've got so much work now. What am I going to do with it all?
Yeah, yeah.
Stop talking about it, just don't
Do
write.
it. Just
So
get on with it.
I was
Speak to
about to
Brian.
come around and say, what would be your advice to young writers? So here's our first pearl of wisdom advice. Just sit down and start
Just
doing
do it.
Just
Yeah.
do it. Yes.
Keep your blinkers off. Don't be afraid.
And don't judge yourself.
Don't judge yourself. Don't be afraid to take advice. Don't isolate yourself. But do what you've got to do. Maintain your integrity. Follow that view you have of things that you're doing. You know, your view might change as you go along. Oh, I hope it does, because your life is going to change as you go along. Please change as you go along. But do it. Just get out there and do it. There's only one you. You've got to go. If you're driven to do it, again, bad luck. You're cursed. But off you go and write,
And do it.
and just get on with it.
That's it. That's what I would say to young budding writers now. There's always going to be haters, and there's always going to be, you know, you can't be not for giving it a go. So give it a go, because you'll just regret it so much when you get older. So just do as much as you can, and you know, and surround yourself with really good people. Surround yourself with positive people who, you know, might read your stuff and go, you know, not as good as that one, but keep going. just be positive, keep being positive, and just be true to yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when it comes to making money, like William Carlos Williams, a late 1800s poet, said that poetry is money. So if you're looking to earn money in poetry, that if that happens in the end goal, great. But that is money. It's more than money.
You mean just the act of the poetry itself?
Yeah, it is money. Like it's life giving.
That's it.
Well, yes, there are other reasons to write than trying to earn a living, than trying to make some money at it and trying to get a car.
If that's your main focus, it's never going to work. If you're going to write to try and make money, it's not going to probably happen for you. It has to come from.
Even Tim Witten's, like, he makes his money. He's supported by a partner.
So you have to be cursed.
Yeah.
You have to be cursed, and hopefully have people that understand your curse. Yvonne, given all of that, what would be your final advice to young writers, you know, that want to pursue this?
Keep going. Try to join a group who will be sympathetic and encouraging, but not overly so. Unfortunately, people let their family read their work, and
It's quiet. It's so quiet.
it doesn't
They're so proud
always
to
work.
see
Not the best critics, perhaps.
No, you know, they're usually too supportive.
This is lovely. You've done a great job with this.
Oh dear me. Yes. So join it.
And yeah, I would agree. Seek out some
Wild
constructive
writers.
criticism and take that on board. You don't have to agree with it, but take it on board and have and listen to what they say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because if they're good mentors, if they're experienced people, you will learn something one way or the other. You'll learn something and improve your craft.
You do.
Yeah. I'm going to have to wrap this up, but let me go around the table. It's our last chance to promote what we're doing. So, Yvonne, let's tell us about the
Well, there
Writers'
are
Wine Group.
several groups in the Central Coast. There's the Gosford Writers, and there's a few further up north, and then there's all the country ones, the isolated writers groups, and it's just go along to one of their meetings.
So if you want to come to one of yours, how do we find you?
Oh, we're on the web. We have a website. It's www.wyongwriters.org.
Okay, seek out them, or in your local area, find the closest writers group to yourself. Brian, chance to promote yourself, or your authors. What if an author is looking for an agent? Should they come to you?
Probably not. Well, after this, I mean, who would?
I mean, after this, if they're still passionate about it.
That's right. That's exactly right. Look, I think it's a good thing to have someone to promote you. Getting an agent is a very tough call because there are so many people.
Would you encourage people to try and get an agent?
Yes, I would. I would encourage people to join a group, to get involved, to get connected, to legitimate, to really think about themselves, the way they're promoting themselves, profiling themselves, and get their website and all that sorted out as much as it might fill up the airwaves. It's a platform, and people have got to start doing that. And if you are looking for an agent, go to the Literary Agents Association ALAA website. And there are all Australian literary agents who are members of the association in there, and look at the agencies and what they do and the sorts of things that they specialise in. Whether, if you just send stuff out to people, you're going to get a lot of no's. You get a lot of no's anyway, but do a little bit of research. Imagine yourself in the marketplace and where you fit, and do some research and find out who's doing what. And
make sure they look like the most appropriate person.
And look like they're the most appropriate person, but also for writers to have a grip of not only what they're writing, but how that might potentially fit into the marketplace. But the one final thing I do want to say to all writers, looking at the camera, looking at the camera.
Let's cover there.
May the curse be with you.
And also with you.
And if that hasn't discouraged you too much, where can we find you?
You can find me on the Australian Literary Agents website, theauthorsagent.com.au.
Susie, what can you tell us? What are you up to?
Okay, I'm currently working on developing my children's stories into a chapter book. So making them more descriptive, because there's no pictures, there'll be little graphics like you've got there in your great book there, and it'll be, so I need more description, and so come fly with me will be chapter book. So I'm doing that. I'm working on anthologies, haiku, small poetry with my publishers in India and Japan, and so just critiquing other people, writing chapters in other people's work as well.
Lots of stuff, and that's the other stuff that you do that we didn't get to.
Yeah. So www.susiepalmer.com.
Okay, thank you, Susie.
Thank you.
Just to wrap up, where can we find you online?
Okay, well you can go to LinkedIn, find me there. Just Sally Perricone at LinkedIn. I'm actually going to do reality television now, so that's what I know, which basically scripts itself.
Yeah.
So just putting the premise out there and having it write itself. I'm just interested in everything, so I've done a little bit of everything. I just want to have a go at everything that there is out there and find what I really love and then push it. See, you're never too old.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you to our panel for this, our final episode. Before we go to our local legend package, I would just like to finally thank also Art Central, because we didn't talk about grants, but we actually received a grant to make this series and to produce this show. A little bit of money helps. It's never enough money, but a little bit of money always helps. So that's Art Central, which is a collaboration between the Regional Development Corp here on the Central Coast, the 2 local councils, Gosford and Wyong, and the state government. So it sort of covers all of it. And we're very grateful for that grant to make this show possible. But as to our local legend package, which is
John Archer.
John Archer.
Yeah.
John Archer. Check this out.
When I started self-publishing in 1990, 91, the bookshops weren't that crowded. The big blockbusters weren't holding all the space. You could get your books as a self-published author could get space if you went through a distributor. I had a very good distributor who's now gone bankrupt, not owing me any money, fortunately, but now there is no real distributor for people wanting to publish, and these are major issues that you don't think about in the excitement of publishing your own work, is how you're going to sell it. So my father, on the other hand, I think envious of my literary output, wrote his own book, and he did that with a vanity publisher, right? So you pay them a lot of money, you get a book in the end, hardcover, photographs, the lot. And the bookshop sold about 8 or 9, and he had 2,000. So he went on tour through Queensland and sold them all. He went on radio. I mean, we're an old grazing family in Queensland. We've been there since 1853. A lot of our properties are all over the place, and we founded Rockhampton in 1853. So we're not unknown in Queensland. But anyway, he said, there you are, sold the lot. So it's possible even to publish with vanity publishers who will do everything for you for quite a considerable fee and present you with a finished book. It's still possible to sell those, but can you sell them at a competitive price? You know, it's all very well with the distributor. The distributor wants about, in total, around 40 or 50% of the retail price. So you end up getting, and if your books cost X amount to print, you have to do all this stuff. We fortunately have been able to do that through the magazine. We learnt about the budgets, about how to cost things so that you do make a profit, and how that discipline works. So I think that publishing now has become far more difficult, self-publishing. And the big publishers are even worse. The big publishers, the major publishers, won't easily look at the first-time writer unless there's some big blurb going on or they've managed to engage a literary agent.
Hello, thank you all for watching. This has been the final episode of the Litmus Test for this season. We don't know if we're going to continue these next year. However, the website, the YouTube channel, they'll all still be online, and you may occasionally see special interviews, special packages still going up. So we're not completely dead, but for the moment, these special Litmus Test episodes will not be continuing. That said, I want to take this opportunity to thank a few special people. Thank you very much to all of our cast and crew who've helped put all of these shows together. In particular, I'd like to thank 3 people. Tina A. Wake, who has been our art director and our package producer and interviewer for most of these episodes. Fiona Lloyd, my sidekick and associate producer, who helped organise all of our guests and all of our talent. It was a massive job. Well done, Fiona. And last but not least, I'd especially like to thank Bob Fitzgerald, my co-producer and our technical director, for all of these shows. Without him, this would not have happened. Thank you so much, Bob. So that is it for the Litmus Test. You can find us, our website will still be up, thelitmustest.com. Find us on YouTube, find us on Facebook. There'll still be stuff going on, but for now, that's the end, that's the wrap, and we're going to take it out with one more song from Jai Sharp. Take it away, thanks, Jai.
Well, I'm not meant to tell you, babe. I think you better wait for tonight. 'Cause all I can see is the bluest of skies, shining oh so bright. I'm getting nervous about tonight. Depression and anxiety can go take a hike. Well, I'm feeling good, oh so bright, with you and me. And that's what I mean, now set me free, yeah. Can't you see I'm happy as can be? Can't you see I'm happy as can be? Oh, come on, dance with me. Would you come on now, check on my feet? Can't you see I'm happy as can be? Take it back one notch and think of where we've been, and think of all the remedies and what we're gonna see with the ocean. It's so clean. Please don't let those people bring your mood on down. They don't know what they got or where they are. In reality, they're the clowns. So come on, please grab my hand. We'll go for a run on the sand and then we'll go explore this land. We are so lucky to have this life tonight. Oh, that's right. Don't waste your time, now live your life, yeah. Can't you see I'm happy as can be? Can't you see I'm happy as can be? Come on, dance with me. Would you come on now, check on my feet? Can't you see I'm happy as can be? Can't you see I'm happy as can be? Can't you see I'm happy as can be? Come on, dance with me. Would you come on now, check on my feet? Can't you see I'm happy as can be, yeah. And with the remedy, see what the remedy feel, and everything know, would you know? And everything I wanna know with my friend, and everything I wanted to do said, and everything I wanted to be, yeah, and everything. And would you come together now? I said, coming together, coming together. Why don't you come and join me? With the people in the back and the people in the front and everything all in between. Come on, dance with me. Come on, check on my feet. Can't you see I'm happy as can be?